Hey Teresa, how you doing? All right. So yes, this is a lot harder than it looks when you first glance through the assignment specifications, isn't it? Mark had mentioned the same thing, and I totally agree with this. All right. So I tried to space my letters based upon a few suggestions that I was given one other time based on the letter shapes. Not sure if this is correct. And I'll go over some little rules here based on the sans serif typeface as well as the letter combinations here. But a general rule of thumb would be just that the space in between each letter form has the same volume. Okay, so it would stand to reason that if these need to have the same volume, that these two curved letters would be closer than these two straight the straight letter forms, right? And that is indeed true. So let's go ahead and take a look at what you got here. And the first thing I see is that you've done a good job with your baseline, mean line, cap line, and you've probably noticed that the instructions are a little bit weird, and they say to begin first, draw a baseline, mean line, and cap line on the marker paper. But that, as you have found out, doesn't really make sense because you can't draw a mean line without knowing what font you're using. So that's something that I think is trial by fire, as it were, learning that as we trial by fire. I mean, learning as you go. So I think that's very, very interesting. So when you move forward, make sure you draw your baseline on your drawing paper. Take the printout, and on your baseline, establish the B. Then when the B is in place, you can establish your cap height. Make sure those are perfectly parallel throughout. That distance cannot change. Then place your A, once your A, or at least mark your A, and then get that mean line in place. And that will really help you to place the other letter forms. I'm seeing one thing here, and it's this curved part of the N in both instances is not as high as the curved part of the A. And that's an inconsistency that will have to be addressed. Those should all ride the same size. Now, there's something called overshoot on curved letters, and we'll talk about that starting next week. But right now, we're not going to concern ourselves with that. We're just going to try to get these as even as possible in their relations, the curved side of the letter forms, as even as possible in their relationship with the actual mean line. Okay, so I want to take something here. I'm just going to grab this. And I'm going to use this as a straight edge because I want to show you something. Okay, so if I'm taking this, I'm going to hold this as a straight edge. You can see the top of the N is higher than that left side, straight side of the N. And you've depicted that. So that's very astute. Good job there. And again, these are just optical relationships that are inherent in all typefaces, and they kind of establish the way that optical illusions are rectified in especially the distance between letters when those letters are curved, straight, two curves, or even diagonal letters like X's and V's. Okay, so moving forward, what are we going to do? I think the letter spacing here is good. It's good. It's good. It's a little tight. I think it's a little tight in areas, and that's going to make sense once I described it. But the main thing here is that we're able to read this word banana as one word. Okay, imagine if there's inconsistent spacing. Our mind is not able to perceive this as one word. We're able to see it as groups. So if there was a big space between the N and the A, our mind would read B-A-N and then space A-N-A. So you can see where inefficient kerning impedes the efficiency of reading as our eye has to stop for these unusual breaks between letters. Now I'm going to use Gabriella's assignment up here. And Gabriella, I don't mean this to be, this is not meant to be discouraging because I think you did a good job. But I'm using this as an example because the letter spacing here is much wider than Teresa's. And we can see that we're seeing this, Teresa, take a look at this. We're seeing this as a series of letters as opposed to a word, okay? Ergo, the importance of letter spacing, the importance of kerning as it relates to not only the visual attributes, but also the functional attributes of type in that we are able to read more efficiently. Okay, so where do we go? The rules I'm going to use are this. So in essence, what we have here are we have sans serif typeface. We've got a couple of different combinations A and N, N and A, and B and A. That's all we have in this word, right? So that said, we've got three different combinations of shapes. We've got curves meaning curves. We've got curves meaning straights. And we've got straights meaning straights. The rule is this, and if we talk about volume, it would make sense. This will stand to reason. The B and the A, the distance between the B and the A should be the most narrow. The distance between two curved letter forms in a sans serif typeface should be the most narrow. The distance between a curved letter form and a straight letter form should have the next amount, and then the widest kerning should be between two straight letter forms. And that stands to reason if we're talking about volume, because right now this counter space right in here, this negative space, has more volume associated than these two straight letter forms, right? Or these two straight parts of the letters, I should say. So if we move this over, we're closing that volume down. If we open this up, we're increasing that volume, bringing those closer to equilibrium. Okay, those are my recommendations, and try it. I think you're going to really find it works very, very well. Right now, shoot for consistency in the size of your letter forms. It's great that you're developing and noticing these optical relationships where this part of the N is not as high as the curved portion of the N. But for now, we'll get into more optical relationships next week. But for now, just try to make these letter forms as consistent as possible and employ those little rules I just gave you regarding letter spacing. All right, fantastic job. Oh, hey, if you want to try the kerning game, I don't introduce this till next week, but what the heck, might as well try it now, right? So this is the kerning game. Here's the URL, type.method.ac. But if you just Google the kerning game, you'll come up with this, and you definitely want to try this. There's a bunch of words here where you're able to take the letters and kind of move them around. And then you compare your findings with what they have, and you'll get a score. I didn't do very well. So definitely want to try that kerning game, and it'll give you a little bit of a further, deeper dive into the relationship of letters and their distance between the negative space between those letters. All right, Teresa, great job. Any questions at all? You know I'm right here. Okay, thank you.